Get ready. Get ready. Come on. Get ready for Betty, Tracy, Michelle, Phyllis, and Stephanie. A new show called Good Grief, Good Gossip, Good God, call it G3. Education, celebration, transparency. There's no subject that they won't tackle if it uplifts you and me. Good grief, good gossip, good God, G3.
Welcome, and thank you for tuning in this evening to Good Grief, Good Gossip, Good God. Hey, I'm flying solo tonight. I'm your host, Stephanie Lackey. And as we explained in our earlier shows, there will be some shows where some of the hosts will be by themselves running the show solo. So, hey, it's my turn tonight. I've got a really wonderful platform for you this evening. And I have an exciting guest, our special and dynamic guest is a New Jersey native who attended Hampton University and graduated with a Bachelor's of Science in Marketing. He later obtained his MBA while serving as the chapter treasurer for Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. His number one purpose in life is to ensure humankind collides with purpose through accountability and personal development. This proud father of 6 amazing children also loves spending time in his vegetable and fruit garden. Didn't know that about him. He is also a world-renowned author who wrote the books Understanding a Man and Understanding a Man, Memoirs from a Father to His Son. Ladies and gentlemen, I have this special guest with us this evening. Tonight's topics will be all around relationships. So, hey, if you are single, if you are engaged, if you are married, whatever relationships that you have, girlfriend, boyfriend, it does not matter. This relationship coach is here with us this evening, and I'm so excited. He's a personal friend of mine and my husband, and we love him dearly, part of our family. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome to our G3 set, Mr. Elam King.
Who you guys talking about? Who you talking about?
Welcome.
Good evening. How are you?
Good. How are you, Mr. King?
Hey, listen, I am super excited and just I'm very grateful for you to even have me on this platform this evening. Can you guys hear me pretty well, or?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, so good afternoon, good evening, good grief, good gossip, good God.
Hey. Well, we're excited that you are here with us this evening. We love to learn a little bit more about why you got into coaching and relationships. And we definitely are so excited to hear more about your books and everything that's going on in your life. I understand there's some conferences little birdie told me about that you would I would love for you to share with our audience. And let's just kind of start off and talk about why you decided to even write a book. What inspired you? Why is this your passion? Is this something that you've done to help others? What was the key element?
It's so interesting because if you visited with maybe some of my peers when I graduated, when I was at Hampton or even in high school, like Elam never talked about being an author. I was really about just chasing money. It was just like, as long as the money's straight, I'm not worried about anything else. And so graduated college and, got out into corporate America and did a little something, that some would consider as would be in the lines of successful. I've always been in the sales arena, so that's been something that I've been able to take advantage of and, take care of my family and things of that nature. Somewhere around about 33, 34, I was like, I'm not, because my family was in there eating dinner and I'm in here typing on my computer. And there was a happiness that was not inside of me that I was able to find. And so there were some challenges that kind of, crept into my marriage because of that, because I was looking for her to satisfy my level of happy instead of me doing that. Fast forward, as time kind of went on, I was invited to a conference by Adrian E. Bell in Florida. I was just supposed to be on the panel. I was invited to a panel discussion. Actually, the first time I was ever on a stage, if you will. And this was after lunch, and we all ate lunch together. So the itis will kick in within about 10, 15 minutes. Okay. But for that hour, the one segment, because it was a women's conference, so I was only there for about an hour for my segment. It was called Understanding the Mind of a Man. And so what we did was we just simply, the ladies like put all these questions on a piece of paper and we answered them. And it was 5 guys that were on the stage. And it was one divorce, two divorced, and like 3 of us were married. And when I tell you, after that hour, I looked around the room and I was just like, wait a minute. But let me back up, because the day before when we arrived, maybe about the first vendor that we walked up to was a book coach.
Wow.
Let me rewind back 3 hours before then. When we were driving down, I'm driving randomly, and I say to my wife, I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna write a book one day. And then she clowned back real quick and she said, well, your head is big enough, I'm sure you got enough information up there. So now fast forward, I spoke it.
Yeah.
The moment I get there, I run into a vendor. I'm still not seeing it. And the next day, I'm looking around the room after an hour. I mean, these ladies wanted us to keep answering questions, and they had to go on to the next, module, next segment of the because it was a 3-day conference. And they were like, we want to ask more questions. And that's where at that moment, and so like I said, that segment was called Understanding the Mind of a Man. And so I looked around the room and I said, you know what? Because the mean age in the room was probably about 45. So I looked around the room and I said, I don't think women really understand men. And from there, it just kind of, steamrolled from there. I went and got that same book coach. Okay. Because here's the thing. If you're walking inside of something that you're not really familiar with, you should always have a mentor. You should always have a coach, whether it's in book writing or whether it's marriage, relationships, or whatever. So knowing that concept already, I said, well, I don't know how to write a book. So let me get with somebody who knows how to do that.
That's an amazing story. So you spoke it out into the atmosphere. God orchestrated you to actually run into someone who is now your mentor in writing your book, your first book. Then you were blessed to be on a panel. He orchestrated you to be on a panel and lift you up in front of, I don't know how many women, to be able to answer these
It was about
questions.
100. It was about 100 women that were in the room. So that's what I was just like, man, it's like 100 women in here, and y'all like mid-40s. How y'all don't know how we really think, how we really feel? That was my honest statement. Just sitting there, like on a movie when it kind of like everything blocks out, and you're just like the tunnel vision, and you're like, wait a minute. That's really that was that moment for me.
So I'm sure the audience wants to know, what was the most outrageous question about understanding a man that was presented to you?
Oh man.
Or has been presented to you? Maybe not, while you're on that platform, but since.
I think one of the biggest questions that I get asked, I've been asked over the years, and this is with the life coaching or marriage coaching or pre-marriage coaching or just people that are in dating. The biggest thing that I will get from, let's just say from ladies, is what is it that I can do? What do men really want?
Yeah.
I get the what do men really want, and and then there's also like the conversation, and it's not like one particular sentence, but it's always like people think there's like one silver bullet for how a relationship works.
Mm,
And I always say
mm,
to them, it's not true.
right.
It's almost like dieting, right? Or exercising or whatever. You can do crunches, you can do
Mhm.
bike riding like right? You can get the Peloton, right? There's
Yeah. Yeah.
multiple different ways you can do it, but you have to commit to one, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then ride down that lane. And if it's not working, then you can pivot and kind of go somewhere else. So, people are so focused on, what can I do for the other person in order to make them want to stay with me, or love me, or be attracted to me. And I always say that the one person that does not show up in relationships is yourself.
It's you. Yeah.
You're the one
Yeah.
person that doesn't show up.
Yeah.
You're there, but you're really mentally trying to figure that other person out, and you've never even dated yourself. You've never even figured out what your purpose was. You never even figured out, your self-awareness is everything. And so
Oh,
you don't
absolutely.
even know how to love. And I'm sorry, I'm going too deep already. You
No,
don't even know how to
no,
love, and you don't even know how you receive love, but you want somebody else to just maximize loving you and be with you. It doesn't make any sense. It's like it's like it's like being at okay, I always tell people with sports, right? Everybody recognizes that, if you're playing a sport that you never played before, you get like what? A coach, right? You gotta
yeah,
figure
yeah.
out, what's going on with a coach, make me better, whatever case to be, right? And when we get a job, right, we will research the crime in the area, the schools, where's the nearest hospital, airport, whatever case may be, right? And we'll do all that due diligence for these other. I can go to a myriad of different other examples, but when it comes to a relationship, we're not willing to walk that same path. And so
Mm,
my somehow my purpose that dropped on me, that I absolutely love God for showing to me, is that there are some mistakes that I made along my travel and my journey and my process from a relationship perspective. But if I can go back and touch somebody else and kind of give them the cheat code,
mm-hmm,
I'm gonna give them the
mm-hmm,
cheat
mm.
code.
It's interesting. I wish I, had these conversations with you a long, long time ago. I love the fact that you said, you know, we we as individuals need to show up in the relationship. We need to but even before that, we need to date ourselves. We need to know what we want in these relationships. I think a lot of times we see, couples on social media, and there's this persona, they got this great relationship. I want that. I want that. But people don't know what goes on behind closed doors, right? And so how can you love, in my case, how can you love a man, because I'm a female, how can you love a man and you don't even know what that is, or what you want, and what that love looks like for
Right,
you and me, whether it's your boyfriend, whether it's your fiance. you
right.
know there's a whole lot to be learned, because if you don't love yourself, it does come out. It'll come out in a relationship. So it is so important that you understand you and what makes you happy first.
Yeah, that. And so my first book was about that was in 2017, Black Friday. So what is actually now on pre-order right now, to your point, of what you were just saying about just knowing yourself. And so the next anthology that I had a chance to be a part of, and the brainchild of that was Aisha Goodall. She's out of California, and we met in a business long time ago. And we just stayed cool or whatever. And so then she kind of came forward with her first book was The Dating Single Mom, something. She gonna kill me if she hears me say that. But the second book that she has out right now is Dating a Single Mom. And so it's an anthology of 6 fearless women, and I'm the only dude in the book.
I'm not
um
surprised.
and so the Single Mom's Guide to Dating. That was the first one. Ooh, I don't want her to get mad at me. Okay, so and so in this one, Dating the Single Mom, it's really these are single moms that are giving their testimonies and their stories about some of the experiences that you go through, trying to date and you got kids, and taking care of yourself, and the shame maybe of if you're coming off a divorce and then you're trying to remarry, or you're trying to date again or whatever. And the angle that I come from is basically what you were just saying there with regard to people, they try to dodge the one thing that's going to actually give the biggest production within their relationship, which is understanding yourself first and having that level of self-awareness before you start to date, or at least be in toe of working on yourself significantly, even if you still are dating, whatever case to be. I think it's rude if you don't understand yourself and you're out here dating. You are a rude person. Because because I think that, there is a level of I like to say the hopeless romantics that are out there, right? Where, let's just get married. The Ken and Barbie dolls that y'all played with a long time ago was indoctrinating you.
Yeah.
And while you're playing with those, we're playing with the marbles, right? So we're not realizing that there is work that has to be done in order to not even acquire and walk lock and step with somebody else's completely different brain than yours, but then also to have that be long term and be fruitful and godly. And so that's work
Yeah.
on both
Yeah.
sides. And the work
Absolutely.
starts with yourself of understanding who you are first before you even enter into talking about that type of commitment.
Preach on, my brother. Preach on. So let's fast forward. You're in a relationship, whether it be boyfriend, girlfriend, fiance, husband, wife, whatever it may be.
Mhm.
And you think you know yourself. You think you know what makes your significant other tick. Then there's a conflict. You have your first conflict, and the whole world comes to an end. I don't want to give away your secret sauce, but something that you've been able to help me with in some of my, relationships, whether it be with my husband or other relationships, work relationships, client relationships, girlfriend relationships, is, putting into play some of your best practices, some of your golden nuggets that you have provided for me. And I would like you to share some of that. What are some of those steps that you take? I mean, do you pounce on that other person and, you're in their face? Do you, kind of regress to a ball and like, oh gosh, I don't want to lose this person. Let me not say nothing. Okay, you win. You're right. What do you do? What do you do? What are some of those golden nuggets that you have shared?
Oh, the pressure. Um, so I wanna share this because it's interesting that when we are in business, right? Those of you who are business owners right now, have you noticed that, and even companies as well, so whether you have your own business as not, or you're an employee, watch how you experience this over the past 6 to 7 months, right? So COVID comes through, right? Like you said, issue in your
Yeah.
relationship. Okay.
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
in your business, right? Um, because sometimes when you talk money, people get it a little bit easier. So I'm gonna go here with the
Yeah.
money. Okay.
Okay. All
So
right.
your
Good.
money ain't right and with your business, right? Or your CEO, the money isn't right. What did they do? They called a meeting. Okay.
Hmm.
And they said, this is where we are. Okay. This is where we are. This is what our goals were or whatever. But based upon this situation that's going on, we got to tweak, redo, whatever case it be. Here, you handle that. Here, you handle that. Here, you handle that. Hey, we're going to meet back in about a week or two because we're losing money.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's just get to the bottom line of what companies really did. It was about the money. It wasn't about caring about people. It was about the money. So
Mhm.
very quickly. And then what started happening, unfortunately? What was like 40 million people lost their jobs? Why do you think
Their
that
jobs.
happened? Because there was issues going on, and the leaders got together and said, we need to do some things differently. Okay. So
Mhm.
that's in order for business to survive. They make some cuts, they make some additions, or whatever case would be. They call a meeting. They don't just sit there and send emails back and forth, aka text messages. They don't just,
Mhm.
sit there and argue with the issue, whatever case would be. They're like, all right, you mad, I'm mad, time out.
I'm
Where we
out.
need to go.
Yes.
And I think that
Mhm.
within our relationship sometimes, and I would just want to ask anybody who's listening, how many times were you having an argument with your significant other or your spouse, and like at the end of the argument, you were like, "Oh, okay," or
Yeah.
they were like, "Oh, okay, I get it now." You have
Right. Right. It like never
arguments,
happened.
19 don't end like that. Okay, you might have one. So think about that. So if that's we know these things, right? So that means that you need to call a meeting at a neutral time. Okay, today's Monday. We're doing real bad. Stephanie, let's meet tomorrow night at 6 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
dinner.
Mm-hmm.
Or at a
Yeah.
sometimes you got to get away from the home, and just
Mm-hmm.
let's just meet and let's go to your favorite restaurant. Let's talk, because remember, you signed up for forever, and you want your
Right.
business to thrive. Because if you want to think about it, your marriage is one of the biggest business and financial and emotional decisions that you will ever make in your life. So you have to use
Absolutely.
techniques of sit down, figure it out, because
Mm-hmm.
that's what life's all about. Okay, that's
Right.
Blues Clues. All right, but watch this. The problem is people try to use Blues Clues in their relationship to whereas they're just like, okay, you should know I'm mad and figure out why, and then come over to me and figure out. And if you don't know, then you don't love me. Or if you don't, that's Blues Clues. Sit down
Right.
and have a conversation and figure it out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Blues
Yeah, I love
Clues, it only works on Nickelodeon. It does not work on in relationships. Okay, we're and it,
that.
insight, ladies, and if you think your man is that smart to
Right.
multitask his life to the point where issue or marriage or dating is having an issue, and you got the COVID and you think your man is smart enough to be like, oh, Stephanie, what's wrong with you? Let me. You know what's wrong. I know what it is, and I'm going to figure it out by myself. And I'm going to come to you with flowers and candy.
Like that never happened.
But I'm being for real. Like we're all grown, and we haven't. Everybody's grown until it's time to communicate.
Yeah.
That's when everybody
Mhm.
wants to take their ball and go home, and that's not going to
Yeah.
work. Communication is the number one. It's number is infidelity. Number two is finances. Number three is communication for the reasons for divorce. At a 50% divorce rate in the United States, and if you're in the minority community, it's 70%. You have a
Wow.
70% chance of losing in your marriage. Line up 10 black marriages, 7 statistically will not make it. That means it could be 8. That means it could be 9. Right. So if you just
Mhm.
think that,
Mhm.
if you're going to walk into this game and not figure out how to keep practicing and playing and getting better, you're going to lose, or you have a high probability of losing, or your body is going to get stressed all the way out and you can't even advance the kingdom to the level that you really needed to because you're stuck somewhere else.
Mhm. Great point. Great point. And you mentioned those statistics, which are, is very much alarming. And what I know just from friends, coworkers, even clients now, is that especially in our community, we don't believe in bringing some out, bringing someone in to coach us in our marriages, right? We'll sometimes go to the doctor. We'll go and make sure we get COVID testing. We will make sure we get our tickets to our basketball games. When we were out, going out and socializing, we'll go to our favorite restaurants. But when it comes to relationships, especially in our community, we were raised what happens in this house stays in this house. And so that's carried on generation after generation. And if I the only advice I can give tonight is we need to break that cycle of what happens in this house stays in this house, because relationships are not recovering, they're not being fixed, or we're not investing into these relationships that we say we love each other, right? And it's just so important to bring someone in and not be ashamed of that, right? We all need help, we all need advice, we all need coaching, we all need those times where me as a wife, I have to reset, right? I have to reset. And when I have those times, I call Elam. I'm like, hey, this is the situation, and there's times when I want to revert back to, well, it's not my fault, it's his fault. Well, no. And that's where comes in. It's like, no, Stephanie, let's look at this. Let's look at the big picture. Let's look at the total picture. So, Elam, can you kind of talk about that a little bit?
But you know what? I don't know what chapter and what verse and what book it is, but the Bible says, "Be angry, but sin not."
Yeah,
Mm.
and your anchor.
And so
Hmm.
I think that sometimes, and I want to speak to my believers for a second right now, because we have this ability to take kingdom principles and apply them to our lives, and over time, that with that due diligence coupled with you having your relationship with God is something that can advance you far beyond what and then that window opens up and it pours you out. And even candidly, Stephanie and I, before this conversation, I was sharing with her some of the things that I have coming up that she didn't even know, and
Yeah.
but that's my window. And I love God because I have an opportunity of seeing exact. I'm not just like that Bible beating. That's why I don't even know what verse and book that is. I grew up in the church. I grew up in the church. You know, I went to Christian school when I was in elementary school, and then we stayed in church every Sunday and Bible study, or it was called prayer meeting back then.
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't know when did it transition to Bible study. I've never understood that, but
Hey. Hey.
you old school if you know prayer meeting. Okay, so but I didn't get a chance to really apply some of these principles until I got to a low point in my life, and I was just like, you know what? And I'm just gonna be real. I say, I'm gonna try you. Like, I'm gonna try
Yes.
you for real. Like, yes, I had accepted him into my heart and all this and that, and I think I'm going to heaven and all this and that. So I'm good, right? But ain't no tithing, which is one of the number one ways if you want an increase. And I'm sharing this with you because I did not understand the power of tithing. You need
Mm-hmm.
when I don't tithe, I feel some type of way. I'm like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be broke. Like, and so, even over the past 2 months, I just watched God just kind of return some things back to me because I had to take a step back, even a little bit at work. But because I'm a consistent tither, I still saw, things just coming through. And so, there's tithing, and then there's just really, and then so because of that, then I get to put God to the test. Y'all can
Yeah.
read about that in whatever chapter that is, but I get to put them to the test. Like, okay, I'm tithing, and I'm gonna go out here and do what Romans 8:28. This thing, okay? I'm gonna love you, and I'm gonna walk in my call. That is my
Mm-hmm.
favorite verse. All things work to those who love God and are called by His purpose. That statement
Yeah.
means to me, if you love God and just try to rock with Him, just try, because remember, you're a filthy rag, right? So,
Yes.
and you walk in your purpose, everything else gets added to you. It might take 10 years, it might take 20 years, it might take 2 months. It says all things work to the good. Not all things are going to feel good. Okay.
Yeah.
So just the
Mhm.
understanding of just being able to walk in that space. And I forgot where we were going in the beginning, but I'm sorry.
No, go
Sometimes,
ahead. No,
my
it's okay.
believers, I just want us to understand that if some people like, God, I want you to send me a man and send me a man and send me a man. God is like, yo, like, really? You're not even doing what I called you to do on this earth. You want a whole
Mhm.
man? So I'm supposed to give you a man, and then you're supposed to go do what I asked you to do. You're supposed to basket weave, and then you get like a deal with Walmart, and you're like making all the basket weaving. So like, I'm trying to blow you up. You over here
Mhm.
asking me for a man. You're not even doing what I called you to do. So
Right.
go do that
Right.
first. In the process of you doing that, you're going to learn more about yourself. You're going to become more self-aware. You're going to increase the
Mhm.
level of happy, which is going to stop you from doing what I did wrong, which was because I wasn't walking in my purpose for at least the first 6 years, of my marriage. Probably more than that, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years of it. I was just like focused on the money. And at the same time, I was putting unrealistic expectations on my spouse because I expected her to bring me the happy that I really should have
Mhm.
been creating inside of myself. Your spouse and your significant other and your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, is not their responsibility to make you happy. That's your
Yeah.
responsibility. They come along
Absolutely.
with their whole other brain, with a whole nother
Mhm.
life that you ain't had nothing to do with. They come along with
Mhm.
that brain so they can only prevent the happy that you've already created inside of yourself. But if you're sitting up there talking about such and such doesn't make you happy, my first question one is, well, what are you doing on this earth right now to satisfy your own happy at least 75%?
Preach on. Preach
Not
on.
50.
That,
Not 50. Don't give me that 50-50 stuff. Nah.
yes.
That
Yes.
means watch this. If you take 50-50 into consideration, what happens on the days when that person does not show up?
Right.
Let's look at grade school grades. Now, 75 is a C. That means you pass. That means if the other person does not show up with their other 25, you're still okay because you're
Mhm.
satisfying yourself first. Okay, let's go with what life says over here. It's supposed to be 50-50. Okay. What happens on those realistic days that person? Because remember, you can't even show up all the time. So I don't know how you
Right.
expect them to. So knowing that they're a human just like you, if you show up at 100%, which is your 50%, and they can't show up today, what grade is that? And that means you're not feeling good. That means you're not happy. Okay. And you're now going to say, well, I'm giving my whole 50. You're Stephanie, you're not giving yours. So you know what, Stephanie, you must not love me. Or you don't want to do what it takes. Yo, Stephanie's like, yo, I'm tired. Today wasn't a good day. Like, dude, I mean, now if you like that every day, this is different discussions, but some of these days, like, we're not even at our 75. Get your
Right,
own
right.
place.
Especially right now in this COVID environment. You don't know, you may show up at 0.0005, right? So, hey, Elam, thank you for unpacking that because that is so pivotal to understanding. And, when I think about self love, one of my mottos is live love. Those who know me know that I use that motto all the time. And on our show, Good Grief, Good Gossip, Good God, we have what we call good gossip. And the good gossip that I chose to share with you all this evening is a quote from Maya Angelou. And the quote I actually have on my website. And the quote is, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. I love this. Every time I read it, it
Word,
just
that's
gives
the
me,
word.
yeah, because in relationships, we all have our thoughts of how we feel relationships should go, right? And if you think about what Elam just brought to the table about self love, about bringing your total authentic self to your relationships, that is nothing but love and not having those unrealistic expectations of our mates, right? That's what it
Right.
comes down to. Not having those unrealistic expectations. So, well, Elam, gosh, we could go on and on. You and I, once we start talking, there, and the subject will change, and we can go on and on. And I really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule, sharing with us some things that are going on. And before we close out the show, go ahead and tell us again about your books, your upcoming conferences, anything that you want to share with the audience this evening.
Well, first of all, Stephanie, I want to thank you for even just having me on this platform this evening. Everybody that's in the camp of the good grief, good gossip, good God, look forward to perhaps maybe coming back on at another time because we can do round 2, round 3, round 10 down these topics. You know what that is, but and so thank you so much for even considering me this evening. Those of you can follow me, of course, on Instagram, Elam B King. Also on Facebook under Understanding a Man, and on YouTube as well under Understanding a Man. Also, I do have a podcast called the Understanding a Man podcast. It's available on Anchor or Spotify and all the myriad Apple, iTunes, all that stuff. Please feel free to check us out on there. We do have an upcoming conference coming, which is going to be Juneteenth of next year. And it's going to be the culmination of, yeah, it was supposed to be this year but COVID knocked it out. And so that's going to hinge on it's called Money, Sex, and Respect. And so it's an all male conference, but we're thinking that we might let some ladies in. We don't know. We're trying to figure that out. It's going to be really more centered around young men. And I have another book coming out called Understanding a Man, Memoirs of a Father to His Son. And that is basically 24 different men actually it's 26 men coming together and just having conversation and giving some of the nuggets back to our young men so that they can really understand what this thing looks like out here. Somewhere along the line, God was like saying to me, okay, so you got the cheat codes, give it away. So in the relationship cheat codes, I try to do that as well. And then, God blessed me with just the idea of the memoirs of a father to his son. I'm super excited about that. It's me and my son on the cover. And so that
Awesome.
one, I'm so excited about that one right there. And then also we have an amazing blessing that came forward as well, called fearless storytellers. So it's myself and about 7 or 8 other men having just some discussion that you will end up seeing on Amazon Prime very soon. So yeah, it's just and this all came way down the road.
Wow,
But
wow. Look at that. Just blessing after blessing after blessing. I mean, you're just that all around Renaissance man doing his thing. And greatly
but
appreciate you. Thank you. And before we go, Elam has on his logo T-shirt for Understanding a Man. So please check that out on his website. Hey, this has been a fabulous show this evening. Thank you all for tuning in to Good Grief, Good Gossip, Good God. Stay tuned for some fabulous shows coming up. Have a great night.